Good day, gastronaut mates. This is KeefCooks. I'm Keith, and today I'm going to show you how to make an Aussie classic cake, Lamingtons. Sorry about all that. That was me trying to do an Australian accent. Good, wasn't it? Right, Lamingtons. I've heard of them, but I've never had one. But, you know, they seem pretty hard to get wrong, so fingers crossed. I had a request to do Lamingtons a few months ago from a fellow called Josh Mock, and also a request from Eric Baggioli, whose girlfriend Claire is celebrating her birthday in a few days. So this is a little surprise for Claire. Happy birthday! Libran, like all the best people. Okay, Lamingtons, named after Lord Lamington, who was the Governor of Queensland between 1895 and 1901. And there's a couple of variations to this story involving a shortage of materials to make something in a hurry, or an accidental dropping of sponge cake into chocolate sauce and subsequent rescue by coating it in coconut. They're all a bit unlikely, as are, you know, the combination of ordinary sponge cake, chocolate sauce and coconut. That's just weird. Anyway, it can't be that bad because Australians love them, and Kiwis as well, probably, and everybody. Yeah, whatever the origins, Lord Lamington is said to always refer to them after their invention as those bloody puffy woolly biscuits, which I love. So, Lamingtons, let's do them. The ingredients for the sponge cake are 120 grams of unsalted butter, 120 grams of caster sugar, powdered sugar, superfine sugar, I still don't know, 120 grams of self-raising flour, 120 mils of milk, 3 eggs and a splash, well, a teaspoon of vanilla essence. Yeah, I was trying to get a definitive answer to the American translation of caster sugar, and I'm even more confused than before. I got so many conflicting replies. Thanks to all of you who bothered to take the time, but the issue is still not resolved. Right, before we start making the cake batter, you want to preheat your oven to 160 degrees Celsius if it's a fan oven, a convection oven, or 180 for a conventional one. And get yourself a baking tin and line it with greaseproof paper, parchment paper, baking paper, or silicone thing. And I've just got it stuck down in the corners with a blob of butter. Right, usual drill with making a cake is to cream together the butter and the sugar. This will eventually turn into a smooth, light and fluffy paste. Honest, it will. Okay, something like that. I should do that a bit longer, but I just haven't got the energy. So now we need to mix in the eggs, one at a time, and mix it until it's completely incorporated before you add the next one. There we go, eggs all mixed in, and now I want to add half the flour, half the milk, and the teaspoon of vanilla essence, which I measure very carefully like that. Stir those till it's nice and smooth, and then add the rest of the flour and the milk. And stir again. Now pop this in your baking tin, and then pop it in the oven for 30 minutes. Okay, time's up. Oh yeah. Right, so you can test whether it's done by sticking a skewer into the middle, and if it comes out clean and dry, that's done. So just let that cool down in the tin for about 10 minutes, then take it out and put it on a wire rack and cover it with a clean tea towel and let it cool completely. Yes, a new day has dawned, and it's time to finish off the Lamingtons. So we need some chalky icing and some coconut as a crunchy coating on the outside. So for the icing, you need 200 grams of some kind of sugar that is finer than granulated. Thank you, Brenda Rigdon, for the tip. It doesn't matter if it's powdered caster icing confectioner's sugar, really, because it's going to get melted and be lovely. 25 grams of butter, 50 grams of cocoa powder, and 100 ml of milk, and also a bowl. It's about 150 grams of decimated coconut, which desiccated coconut, which is just to coat the things at the end, and we might not use all of that. So you want a pan of simmering water, and we'll just mix all these things except the coconut in a bowl and just heat it till you get a smooth and creamy thing. So pop your bowl full of goodies over the simmering water. Just keep an eye on it, and now we'll chop up the cake. Here's the cake I made yesterday. It's not very thick, actually. I thought it would turn out thicker than that, but I'm sure it'll be wonderful. So we want to trim off the edges. Might not be thick, but it's tasty. And then just cut it into little squares. I don't know how little. Sorry about this. They might be too little. Okay, well that's all sort of melted. I might have gone wrong with quantities of something because that looks just too runny. So I'll pop a bit in a little bowl and I'll put that in the freezer for a few minutes and see if we get any kind of set. Okay, so, well, it's kind of set a bit. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to add more butter to this, and hopefully that will help things to set. So basically about another 25 grams ought to do it, I think. All right, the sauce has been in the fridge for about 15 minutes. And yeah, it's thickening up. Maybe I'm just over worrying about this. So what we're going to do is dip each square into the sauce and then dip it in the coconut. Shake off the excess, pop it on the rack. They might work. Well, look at this. A whole load of Lamingtons, which need to go in the fridge for about, well, at least an hour probably for the chocolate to set properly. Some leftover chalky sauce and some leftover coconut with chalky sauce in it. So I'm sure those will get consumed. I'm actually quite impressed by this. I didn't think it was going to work with the runny sauce, but I think I've fixed it. Okay, Lamington taste test time. And yeah, I'm not picking it up because it's still a bit gooey and yeah. Okay, confession time. I'm not a big fan of coconut. It just, I don't know, it just takes about 3 hours to swallow a mouthful. Sponge cake, chocolate, coconut, to quote Lord Lamington, those bloody, fluffy, woolly biscuits. Yeah, they're very unusual. I don't think I'd want one every day. Sorry, Australia. But anyway, Lamingtons, there you have it. And that's that. I hope you enjoyed it. Now please do the usual: likes, shares, comments, subscriptions, donations, patronage, all that good stuff. Or just some of it. And thank you for watching, and see you next time.